Yes, Shivers.
Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Arthur's Roundtable. Super grateful for everybody's paying attention and sharing and listening. And so, again, thank you for that. We're glad to have Tyrus Shivers with us today. We don't know each other, but we're glad to have him. And it is germane to our subject matter, what he's doing. And so I think you'll enjoy the show today. So, again, thank you everybody for paying attention. And Tyrus, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Arthur. Look forward to this conversation.
Me too. So let's, if it's okay with you, let's start at your beginning, and then we'll move on to the beginning of the enterprise.
Absolutely. So I grew up in South Alabama, about an hour north of Mobile, very rural area. I'm talking dirt roads, cow fields, cotton fields, peanuts, not a lot of opportunity. Most people that I know either worked on a farm or they worked in a wood yard or in some sort of factory. And we're talking 12, 15-hour days or rig work as well, right off of Mobile and into New Orleans and Louisiana off the coast. And as a young kid, I grew up with my great grandfather in the house and my grandmother, his daughter, and my father was in prison and my mother was working two jobs. But as a young kid, I grew up with the stories of him growing up in 1919, being born and chopping cotton for a nickel a week. I grew up with
Wow.
the stories of
Wild,
my
right?
grandmother.
When so
Yeah.
long ago?
Yeah. 1919. My grandmother, his daughter, she picked cotton. I remember her talking about $10 for every 100 pounds of cotton they would pick. And my great granddaddy always used to say, learn all you can because you're gonna need it. I walk by his house every day going to school, so education has always been central to our family. And I told my mom one day, I was like 9 or 10, that I'm not gonna work hard like you guys because you work very hard but don't have a lot. We didn't have much. And for me, that first job, that first kind of step into entrepreneurship was printing business cards for local churches and small businesses. And I did that with my great aunt, my grandmother's sister. She had a computer, we didn't. And so that's kind of was my introduction into
Spark, right?
entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurial spark. Yeah.
Yeah,
How old were you
absolutely.
then?
I was about 8, 9 years old.
Yeah, wild. Nice.
Then
Enterprising.
Then graduated, went to university on full scholarship. 2 years in, I lost that scholarship and not doing the right things, and I did the thing that I said I wasn't gonna do. I went and I started working hard. I worked at a HVAC company, 8 hours a day, and then overnight, I worked at UPS loading, trucks, and so now I'm working 12 hours a day, making a little bit of money and working hard, and I knew that that wasn't my goal, so I didn't jump right back into entrepreneurship. I went into the military. I went active duty Air Force in 2007. I was planning to do 20, 25 years, go to OTS, become an officer. And then 2009, I was medically retired. And so for everybody listening, life is all about pivoting because we can have goals, but sometimes those goals just don't work out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Luckily, yeah, luckily, I was in the cleared environment, and so I left the Air Force in Korea, went to Maryland, and got into GovCon. And from 2009 to today, I still have some feet in the GovCon world, doing system administration engineering, making good money, but that wasn't going to create generational wealth. It was going to give me a great paycheck, decent lifestyle, but I couldn't give that to my son. I couldn't pass down a whole lot of wealth. So around 2014, I launched a property management company and I went from zero to 1.2 million, 1.3 million in 18 months, about 250 units managed. And I grew that business and continued to grow it until it started to stress me out and I started doing too much and running too many projects, got into a lot of debt. And in 2019, I shut that business down. I didn't sell it because I didn't have anybody to tell me to sell it. People told me afterwards, you could have sold it, but at that point, it was too late. I just wanted to get out. So I had the experience of making a lot of money, growing it really fast, and then having it implode and understanding, okay, how do I keep this from happening again? And that's where I got into consulting, which leads me up to today of what we do primarily at Legacy Wealth Capital Group.
So, Tyrus, and they're just words, but I'm wondering, you said you didn't want to work hard like the people doing the cotton and oil rigs and all that. but building that company was hard work, was it not?
It was tremendously hard. I think my mindset was I didn't wanna work hard and not have anything,
Right. Yeah, you
not
just didn't
own
wanna
it.
trade time for a paycheck, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, not understanding that, yes, they built the foundation because everything that they did is who I am, is built in my character of working hard because I do work hard. I work different. It has more impact. I'm able to bring more. But looking at just you work 12, 15-hour shifts, 21 days straight, get 7 days off. What type of life is that? And then you sleep the other 12 hours. That is something that I didn't want.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty accepted that unless you build equity in something that is exponentially more valuable than the time that you put in, that's the only way to build wealth, right? It can be a business, a company, real estate, whatever it is. But if all you're doing is trading your time for a paycheck, that's not likely to amount to something that you can transfer to the next generation, right?
Mhm. Precisely.
So, what happened during this chance meeting that you had with your two partners? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was speaking at an event, the Power Networking Expo, and I was talking about funnels, websites, how to scale businesses. Because over that time, people did come to me. They wanted to know how I grew a property management business so fast. And it was just me and a handful of VAs. And how did I just do everything that I did? So I got into that consulting, fractional integrator, part-time COO work for influencers, celebrities, and pretty big names. And I had a have a presence online. And I was speaking at this event talking about those things. And two guys walked up to me and they wanted to meet a celebrity I was with. And then second,
They
the
had
guy
an
was like,
agenda, right?
it was a definite agenda. And then the guy said, I saw you on my Instagram feed last week. We have this course called Capital Raising Academy, and we want you to help us scale it because I have helped others build masterminds, scale courses, bring in 10 million plus in revenue in a year just on masterminds. And so that was a reputation that people knew me for. And he said, we want you to help us scale this course. And I said, well, what is it? And they were vending, and I went to their booth and he showed me a stock certificate of when they took their company public 20 years ago. I had no real, and this was a year ago, Arthur. So what I'm about to tell you, you're going to see the collapse in time based on just being around someone with experience. I never really thought about taking a company public. Didn't know that every day, you know it happens, but you don't think about everyday business owners doing it. You think it's for a special elite, but they had done it. And they told me that they had been in venture capital for 30 years and they wanted to scale this course. And me, military background, government background, I trust, but I verify.
Right.
Before I put my name on it, I need to go through it. And when I went through the course, I saw the information. And I've always had this wanting to be wealthy, wanting to own assets, wanting to have a Shark Tank type ecosystem. And I saw a pathway that would shortcut that long-term vision for myself. And I gave them an ultimatum. I said, I can help you scale this course, make you 10, $15 million, but I don't want to. I want a partnership. And I want you to show me how you took your company public and let's take a company public together. And that's the only way I'll work with you. If you don't want to be a partner, then okay, that's fine. That was it. And they said, okay, let's do it. And that's what landed us with Legacy Wealth Capital Group.
Isn't it interesting that you were able to, through experience, to get to the mindset that getting a check for doing some funnel and campaign work is nice, but doing it and you know that the outcome is going to inure to your benefit is a completely different energy, right?
100%. And learning that from doing it. Because when I tell people I have helped other people make 10, 15, $20 million on masterminds or courses, I then go back and tell them the truth. I only made 200, 300,000. I had no ownership. I got a fee for putting it together, but I had no ownership. And even when the projects I did have rev share, it was limited and it was only on certain things. So I still didn't have such a huge upside. I learned then that no, now I want equity. Now I consult for equity. Now I want a piece of things that I'm helping build because without that, I'm still just trading time for money.
And isn't it not true? And I'm not trying to set you up, but I've seen this happen so many times. Is if had you not done what you did prior, help those companies make $15 million, for example, you wouldn't know what you know today, which is first of all how you do that well, right? If you do it a lot of many times, you know how to do it well, and then you realized, okay, why don't I just do it for something that I own, right?
100%. And that is the key point. And my partners say this all the time about they really love the notion and the idea of going public. They did it, they believe in it. That's a mandate of theirs to help more companies go public. But it makes sense to me now to hear when we hear people talk about investing in the stock market, most of the time they're talking about large cap. They're not even thinking about small cap stocks, which you can get a huge return if you go on the small cap size. But they never talk about how about you create your own company and take it public and have people investing in you instead of just investing in the big five, Tesla, Nvidia, whoever's at the top at this given moment in time. Why not you go public? And we never ask ourselves that question, and most small business owners don't. They never ask themselves that question.
So let's talk about that. What causes you and your partners, besides the obvious, which is going public, takes some money off the table and gives you a multiple that is anticipating future growth, but you get the cash today, and then you operate in a public environment, which is a whole other issue, right?
Mhm.
So what is it that, aside from them having done it before, causes you to believe? And let me just ask this question so I make sure I frame the question the right way. Are you thinking about taking this company public or helping others take their company public and participating it in that way?
Both,
Yeah.
both. So we're about to launch a Regulation CF crowd fundraise as a start. With that raise, for those who are not familiar, you can raise up to $5 million in a year from both accredited and non-accredited investors using general solicitation, open market. And so that's a stepping stone. That's one of the ways. And then we'll look at a Reg D 506C in the future onto a Reg A and do the mini IPO and go that route. That's our plan. We're going to step this through over the next 5 to 7 years. But also, we want to help those other companies take a similar pathway or something adjacent to that. They may be further along. They may want to go through OTC and uplist. It just depends. There's not one pathway to going public like we think. Everybody wants to go New York Stock Exchange. Everybody wants to hit NASDAQ, but they don't talk about the tiers of NASDAQ. So there's no deep knowledge of there's different ways that you can go public. And so our goal is to go public and to help others go public as well.
So let's talk about the companies that you help and what you do for them. Can you give us, you don't have to tell us who they are, but give us an example of what's a good fit for your platform as an entrepreneur might consider being involved?
Absolutely. Most companies that we work with are less than 10 million in revenue. So they sit around that 500,000 up to about 10 million. They are founder dependent in the beginning. They are we're industry agnostic, but we stay away from restaurants, new restaurants. We stay away from clothing, beverages. So we get a lot of businesses that come to us in that space, but we don't have that experience. So we don't want to be trying to navigate those. And those are brutal industries. And most of the time they come to us because they need help figuring out how to become an investable business. They have a great idea. They have some revenue coming in, but they're doing it all on their own. Nobody's ever really told them how to structure their business properly, how to establish it properly to even raise capital. A lot of them are LLCs, not raising a lot of money with LLC. A lot of them are not tech enabled. I have a strong tech background. So we talk about AI, we talk about automation, we talk about integration, and then we help them put together the basic business blocks, making sure they have a marketing engine, sales engine, product and service delivery. And with all of that, now you become a capital ready business. You become an investable business because now you have systems and processes. You have SOPs. You have repeatable systems across the frameworks that you need. Now you're a legitimate business. Now you're ready for capital.
And do you get involved in structure like you mentioned LLCs, having them convert to C corp and do a QSBS and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so my partner Sean, that's his specialty. He will go in, he will talk about what the share count should be, what it should look like, how your board, all of your governance docs, what that should look like. And then we always will pair them with and give them options. We have a lot of attorney partners in the space. And we'll say, hey, look, here's recommendations. Now take these to an attorney and make it right for you. If you don't have a CPA, here's some recommendations so you can go and make sure that this tax situation fits you because we're not those people. We can give you recommendations, idea. Now we want you to take that and go tell them to make it legal and tax worthy of you.
And so, how do you source these people?
Yeah, great question. I happen to sit on a lot of incubators and panels for different states, different counties, different universities. So around 2,500 businesses pass through me as a mentor every year. And I get to have a first line. They always look at these businesses before they accept them into their programs. And then if I'm a mentor on the panel, it's almost cherry picked for me that these are viable candidates. Now I'm looking deeper and saying, who has the mindset to be $100 million business? Who has the mindset to be a unicorn? Who has the mindset, the staying power, the experience, and the desire to go further than just graduating an incubator and making a couple 100,000? And when I look at those businesses and they come to me for mentorship as a part of the program, I'm free to offer them everything else that I do. And that's where most of our deal flow comes through.
Not to put you into a box, but would you consider yourself a venture organization?
We have an ecosystem. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I am in a venture capital cohort right now, and we will launch our first venture fund in Q3. The other parts of the ecosystem are education. That's where we teach, train. I own a FINRA registered funding portal that can conduct the Reg CF raises. I own a podcast studio where we can do content. And so inside the ecosystem, we have different businesses and our clients typically circulate through those businesses.
And aside from what is seemingly meaningful reach with the incubators and the pitch organizations, there's obviously a presence that you have in social media. Are you getting 200 people that want to look a month, 100, 1,000?
We typically flow people through when we run paid ads and we will run them for campaigns. We'll get 200 or 300 per month that come through the pipelines. And then we will qualify them down to about 50 that may enter the program, 10, maybe less that are ready to raise capital or even have that interest. We spend a lot of time educating because a lot of businesses sub 10 million in revenue don't know how to raise capital properly or that they can. They know venture, but then they have the horror stories. Well, I went to a VC firm and they wanted 30% of my company. And then that's all they know. Or they went to a bank and got denied.
Right.
Or they took out a business credit card. Like this is the mindset of funding access to capital, the buzzword access to capital that they have. So we spend a lot of time nurturing them through our programs to position them to raise capital and do it in a different way. And so we will hold webinars. We're bringing back in-person events. We're going to do them in Atlanta, here in Maryland, and in Charlotte, where my partners are. And I think Nashville is another state we're looking at in Chicago. And so we're bringing in person and we're going to do online so we can continue that pipeline and that deal flow. But I would say we have more demand at this point than we are serving.
Yeah, there's capacities just because it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Hand holding entrepreneurs, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and you're doing that. You're absolutely doing that. I used to try to figure out how can I get in a position where I'm not hand holding them. But if you want them to be successful, and I don't care if you're taking advisory fees, whatever you're doing, you are helping them, especially if they're not mature enough along that journey. Now, if you're working with a $20 million business, $50 million business, it's different. But beneath that, it's a lot of hand holding.
So beneath that number, are you surprised that a lot of these folks that have good ideas that are arguably fundable, get being tightened up properly, are you surprised that they don't understand a lot of the stuff that you would expect an entrepreneur to understand? And maybe it's because they're first time entrepreneurs and that might explain it, but are you surprised at that?
I am not surprised, and it's just because I've been around a long time, but I do know the reasons. A lot of times they're not going to college. Not a conversation for today, but I have an MBA and I appreciate the lessons and the theories that I learned when I went and got an MBA. It helps me. When you don't have that and you haven't hired someone with one, you're missing the KPIs. You're missing forecasting. You're missing those components of the business that make the business, the data. You're missing that. A lot of entrepreneurs become, I call them accidental entrepreneurs. They're just like accidental landlords. I was working at a company for 15 years. I did a great job. I'm an expert. I think I can do it for myself. Well, you can do that thing that you were doing in the company for yourself, but what about all the other components of the business that they had no idea about? So they're accidental business owners, and then they get kind of get stuck. And that's why they're always operators and never really owners. And the other thing is just mindset. My partners always talk about think like an investor and not even an owner or not even an operator. Think like an investor because when you think like an investor, you look at the business as an asset in your portfolio, not as your baby, not as a thing that you love the most, not as a thing that nobody else can do but you. No, you look at it as an asset in a portfolio. And is it bringing in a return or not?
It's really an interesting perspective to have. And if you don't mind me sharing, some of the work that I do is I sit on, I don't even know what to call it, deal flow review for half a dozen family offices who are actively investing in companies. And they have their own favorite type of company. And because I've been, we get 200 applicants a month of entrepreneurs or funds that want to pitch to the family offices. So we see a lot of deal flow. And so we've gotten pretty good at asking the next best question as from the perspective and the point of view as an investor. Because when people come on to our pitch webinars, we're not promoting the entrepreneur to the investors. We're trying to help them decide whether this is something, and, you know, we're highly focused on asking them the right questions in a short period of time so the investors can decide to bail or move on to looking
Hmm.
closer, right? So we're not banking the entrepreneur or the fund. We're acting as a way for people to look at things that are potentially interesting. And so I sit on a place where we're doing exactly that, asking the hard questions before a family office deploys capital into them. And you can't do anything except do it and get that experience to know what questions
Right.
look under the hood. Well, you said that. Well, does that mean this? Without experience like you have, you don't know the next question to ask, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a lot of businesses don't know how to go into those conversations and succinctly say what they do that will answer those questions. Most of them are going to tell you about their widget, their gadget, their thing, and that's not the point. It's not. I was looking and doing a pitch review for a biotech. device and some data. And it was, I told the founder that you wrote this like you're talking to scientists. You're not going to get any money from investors
Right.
unless they come from a pharmaceutical background. You couldn't even understand it. Yes, I could read it. Yes, I know it's DNA, but I have no clue what it is. The messaging was off. And so a lot of founders go into these pitch reviews, competitions, with that. They're leading with passion. They're leading with why they want to do it. They're leading with all the things that make it great. And then they say all the things that will make you think red flag. Nobody else in the world is doing this. I don't know if there's many things nobody else in the world is doing. Maybe you have a unique take on it, but this is unheard of anywhere in the world. And I'm thinking, I saw something like this last week.
Yeah, exactly. I used to do a lot of business with hedge funds, and the revealing question would be, okay, when does this not work? And you would immediately head for the exits if they said, oh, we'll always make this work.
Yeah.
Right. The right answer is it doesn't work when our thesis doesn't work. And then we'll either have to fold our tent and go home or change. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be able to pivot, and a lot of founders, they don't take failure well, and they don't understand that failing fast is how you get to the thing that works. And another thing that I think we've lost sight of since COVID is what true business was. We no longer study the founders or the fathers of business from the 1800s, early 1900s, and what they had to do to build the businesses that they built. And we miss out on that. Now it's everybody thinks you can get into business and become a millionaire overnight when less than 7% of businesses ever make $1 million. It's the data. The math is there. And so it's not about just hustle and passion. It is all about building infrastructure, owning infrastructure, controlling data, being able to see 20 years down the road, but implement it now immediately and knowing how to map your pathway through that. And so it's thinking long term and falling in love with the process. That's a lot of things that business owners today don't know. There's a great book by, oh, is it Gino Wickman? Maybe Michael McCalloway's The Entrepreneurial Leap. And it really asks you, do you want to be a founder? Is this for you?
Not for
Because it's
everybody, but
hard.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Forget about things that you would often just accept that you'll be able to do this or that, depending on what holiday it is or weekend it is,
Exactly.
that you do what has to get done. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's not for you. Just go find a good job. Work for SpaceX and, make $10 million a year if you have that skill set. It's probably the right place for you. And let's face it, we need those people too in our society. No doubt, right? We need people to do that work for all the right reasons. So what have you found? I'm going to set you up on this one. How difficult has it been to get passionate, smart, thoughtful, inexperienced, let's just say entrepreneurs to engage in a way where they acknowledge that they don't know everything and they need help?
I give you a two-part answer to that. It's been easy to get them to the point of understanding that they don't know what they don't know and they're in a pain point in life. It's been extremely difficult to get them to implement anything that we tell them to do. And a lot of it is lack of capital. And that's where we focus because, yes, they will go through an incubator, an accelerator, they'll go to a pitch competition. They'll be told they need all of these things in order to be successful. Well, I don't have any money to hire somebody. I don't have any money to run a marketing campaign. I don't have any money to put technology in. And so implementation is the hardest part of it. Everybody knows that they're not where they want to be. Some are just intellectually lazy and don't want to do the work that's necessary. Others just can't find a way to implement. I was on a panel last night and the lady was just like, Tyrus, you gave us such clear information on a roadmap. It was all about doing competitive research, buyer personas, just basic. This is for a startup group. And she was like, with so much information you gave, I don't know if I'm in the right room. And I said, well, what made you say that? It was like, it's just a lot. And I'm like, yeah, business is a lot. But what is the one thing that you can do immediately? So I like to always at the end of panels give a 1 week sprint because I know that if you can do something for a week and create some momentum, you can repeat it. And if we can just repeat it week by week by week, then we create discipline. And discipline is what moves us forward when we lack motivation. I used to work with Dr. Eric Thomas, a motivational speaker. Motivation, people love to get motivated. But what happens when motivation runs out? How do you keep going?
Yeah, and those small wins engage you further to keep on moving, right?
Yeah.
Because we're emotional beings. If we're, you know, make 22 sales calls and not get one sale, it's no fun, right? So what's going to cause you to make that 23rd sale, 23rd phone call, right?
Yeah, that's the discipline component. It's the knowing. It's the, I think, being around other people in the space. Like when I became a licensed realtor back in 2014 for Keller Williams, and they wanted you to come in the office and do 300 dials a day and get hung up on and cussed out and everything else. What made you do 300 dials a day? Well, that agent sitting next to you that's getting those listings because they went through it. So you had an example. I think that what we do in our organization is we hold everybody to a higher standard and we put that out front. Most of my partners in all of my different businesses are prior military. And so we all have a similar mindset of mission work. You do the mission. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with the current administration. It doesn't matter what you're thinking. It's the mission that gets done. And so when
It's
you
so good,
raise
right?
that bar, yeah, when
Yeah.
you raise that bar, and we talk to founders and say, hey, look, we're not wasting our time. If you want to be in our ecosystem, this is how we operate. And it changes the game.
So what's your leverage? Are you funding them as well?
So we're not funding them today. When we do launch this VC fund, our first fund, we will do funds then. Our real, I would say, how we embed ourselves is as they decide that they want to grow this business to either exit, acquire other companies, or go public, we take a percentage. And in that percentage, we're motivated to get you to where you need to go because then we get to participate on the upside. And then as they work through our other businesses in that ecosystem, we know that if they're making money, we're making money.
So everybody's familiar with Y Combinator. Is this similar?
I would say yes, it is similar to a Y Combinator. We do take that percentage once they come through the cohort. Today, we are not giving them money that Y Combinator does. In the future, we will do that in a capacity. And so we're similar to a Y Combinator. We don't typically go on a safe. We do, if they go through a Reg CF or we get them, we participate in that or we'll get granted. And so it just depends on the relationship and what we're looking to do. We had an example of a business that turned down a $2 billion deal because they believe in their product so much so that they didn't want to get bought out early. Now, you better believe we want to be on that train because I had to look at it, Arthur, a $2 billion offer come through. It'll make me think 2 or 3 times, but they believe in what they have and I understand it.
So how do you make money in the meantime?
Through cohorts. And so in the meantime, if they come into Capital Raising Academy, there's a fee there. If they want just straight advisory, some just want like for me to look at a pitch deck to give them straight one-time advice. I will do that for a flat fee. And then others will come in if they come through the FINRA registered funding portal. That's a flat fee to get started. It's a percent of the raise and then a monthly fee to keep going. If they come through our podcast studios, our content, those are all fees, monthly fees. Some use us for marketing and advertising. That's a fee. We run our own SaaS software, CRM. So that's a fee. So we're making money on everything that they're doing in the business. If we refer them out, We have relationships with everybody we refer with, so that's a referral fee.
So I'm asking this question because I'm an investor in this company. So full disclosure to you and everybody else on the call. One of the challenges that you have as somebody who's deploying capital, me and our friends, is that the due diligence process is, if you want to be polite, is a shit show. Somebody has a data room, even if they have the best data room software, it is a nightmare. And it's also static, right? So let's just say it's a company. So what we found is if we compel the founder to go through the heavy lifting of doing, and I'm just going to call it a data room the way we want to see it, including bad actor, background checks, the whole
Mhm,
thing,
mhm.
and lots of really hard questions. If they're willing to do that, then not only does it give us data to make a more informed decision, we make that available to everybody, meaning they only have to do it once, but it's in a format where it has to be kept up to date and it can be shared, you know, in a safe way with
Yeah.
other investors. Because in what often happens with our group is that somebody is the lead due diligence person and then brings in a few of their friends, right? Have you found that people would benefit from that sort of thing? And how do you handle the whole due diligence process presently?
So presently, we are dealing with very similar. We have some technology that does has data rooms, looking at that data, depending on broker dealers, like some of the bigger names to do AML KYC checks. However, in about 2, 3 weeks from now, we're going to launch our own fund management software that's going to encompass a lot of what you covered, as well as bringing in data from the crowdfunding space. So we're going to marry those things together because that
Nice.
has been a point of contention with investors in crowdfunding. It's like, once I invest in that, what happens to that company? Who's tracking it? Where does it go? Year 5, where do I get my data from? And so we have built over the last 6 months our own software to remedy or mitigate some of these things. And then we will launch that and utilize that and start pushing that out to the world.
And a separate subject, thank you for sharing that. Separate subject is in the current environment with how fast AI has caused a lot of things to improve, let's just say coding, building software, outreach.
Mhm.
On the one hand, outreach has suffered because we're an attention economy, right? It's hard to get people's attention, more so now than ever, more noise than signal, right? And do you think that the traditional funnel marketing campaign type stuff still works? And how does AI help that or not?
Great question. AI is going to destroy surface level. So if you don't have the attention, to your point, already, it's going to be very difficult for you to get it. And I'll use an example of some influencers that I've worked with. There's a difference between a business running 5 grand a month in paid ads and one running 100 grand a month. You're never going to compete with them. You just
Yeah.
can't, because they're putting so much out there. And so, what is AI going to do to help? It's going to enhance that. It's going to give you faster feedback loops to where you can iterate, you can fix, you can maintain, you can correct much faster. And then, if you have the budget to commit to continuously staying in front of people, then you have the eyeballs. I was looking at a webinar, a podcast from an influencer. He was talking about doing 1,200 pieces of content a month. They're dropping 40 pieces of content a day. Now, it's all entertainment, it's not in this space,
Right.
but that's the level of content that you're dealing with, people who are just constantly pushing things out to keep the attention. I'm an AI power user. I think I've, over the last 2 weeks, have used 59 million tokens in Claude Code. And that's how I know when people are either using AI or they're playing with AI. When I ask them how many tokens have you used, and they're like, oh, I don't know. You're not really using it then. I use 59 million because I'm building things, software. I'm building full-fledged websites and databases and things that s years ago would take 6 months
Yeah,
and a
isn't it?
team of developers.
Yeah, it's
Now,
crazy. Right.
it's me
Yeah.
and a
Right.
handful of virtual, and I see it this way, Arthur. In 2012, we started to see the great migration of customer service leave US to India. That was the first place that it went, and we didn't wanna talk to Indians. Hard accent, didn't really understand, we wanna talk to an
Smart
American.
people, highly
Yes.
skilled, but boy, it was rough. Yeah.
Now we're on the age of, I'm gonna pick up the phone for customer service, and it's gonna be an AI agent. And people may say, "I don't wanna talk to an AI agent." Yeah,
Yeah, you
but you
do.
will,
Yeah.
because it's gonna be
You
the
well,
norm.
not only that, they're so smart. I mean, look at Bordy. Have you seen Bordy?
Yes, me and Bordy have so many conversations, and Bordy makes connections. Bordy has launched a fund. Like, this is where we're going. And yes, we're still gonna need the old school but belly to belly, face to face, get out of the Zoom and into the room networking. Yes, there's gonna be still a place for that because we do business with people we know, like, and trust. But all of the initial stuff is gonna be AI,
Yeah.
the
You
due
know,
diligence.
it is I don't think, and this is just me declaring this, and I might be wrong and often am. I don't think anything is gonna replace, whether it's AI or a person or a combination of both, good storytelling. When people come to me, like your example of the biotech guy, you can't have an engineer or a biotech guy do the pitch because they don't think in terms of the storytelling, right? The investor wants to hear about, how did you get here? Like, what caused you to do this? And then we'll talk about how good your solution to the problem is, because they're buying a story. They're not buying all the stuff that's underneath. That comes later, right?
Absolutely, and I was actually last night talking through it. AI doesn't have the human emotion component. AI, LLM, and large language model is just aggregation of a lot of data, and it can synthesize and put that data together and say, "You know what? This data matches this data. Let me put it together and give you a response." Doesn't know if it's right or wrong, but it just
There's a
knows that
new
it
new
matches.
new word that is entered everybody's lexicon, inference. We never even talked about inference, right?
Yeah, I think that 5 years from now, 7 years from now, AI will be even smarter. It will be able to handle more and more and more. But feelings, as humans, we still have complex emotions and feelings that we navigate. AI is not going to take, in just this amount of years, the thousands and thousands of years of human evolution and replace it.
I'm sure you've done this, so I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I've gotten to the point, and we're not power users. We're just delighted users. Like, it is
Mhm.
just so rewarding in so many of the tasks that would otherwise take not just long, but prone to error, we've gone in and when it gives you the opportunity to give instructions on how to reply, we've taken the Mark Andreessen model and say, don't tell me I'm super smart. Just give me the
Right.
facts, right? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
you can
have to
train
set
the evaluation.
guardrails.
Yeah, right. You set parameters, right?
Absolutely. And you give it roles and you give it experience, not just you're a marketing agent, you're a financial analyst, you're a deal flow organizer, but you're a deal flow organizer that's worked at the top 10 PE firms in the world
Yeah, well, you give it a
doing over
persona, right? Yeah,
all of it, just like
yeah,
a human.
yeah. It's. I mean, I think it's the best time to be alive, and I've been alive a little longer than you, but it's just fascinating what's going on.
And the
So,
ability to create wealth now
yeah,
is going, and while we talk about it takes time and it's a process, the ability to generate wealth now is going to occur even more rapidly than before for those who know how to utilize the resources to do it. Now, you put garbage in there, you're going to get garbage out. But if you really know what you're putting in there and you're leveraging experience, you're leveraging your network, you're leveraging someone else's experience, you're going to be. Now, do I believe you'll do $100 million with one person in AI? Maybe not today, but a year or two from now, probably so.
Yeah. So do you think that there's and I know I'm talking to somebody that has worked at funnels and campaigns and ad spends and that sort of thing, but is there a way to end up with the same result without spending all that money on the ad spend?
So I believe there are ways, but I believe it's extremely difficult because if that were the case, then Facebook, Google, YouTube, they wouldn't make any money. And right now they control the infrastructure layer.
Yeah.
They control the eyeball. So they're not going to allow you. I was looking and watching right when the faceless YouTube video phenomenon came out, maybe a year or two ago. Everybody was like, you can make a lot of money on faceless YouTube. And people were until YouTube changed the algorithm. And now no more. So I think every time we utilize AI to find a way, those brands are going to go back and look and say, you know what, our revenue is down this quarter. What do we need to do? So there'll be a small window for you to make some money. Now, I do think that the more you're able to get out in the real world, the more you're able to capture real live content because that's what people are looking for. That's being rewarded organically, raw. I'm in the world walking around. This is my routine. Here's how I analyze. Here's how I build. That content is picking up and that doesn't require paid media.
So give me an example. That's really interesting. So not the hot chick that says, "Here's my morning routine, my workout routine, blah blah blah." Uh, like
Give you
it a
I give you a
biz
perfect
yeah,
example. There's a guy on Instagram. He's a minority guy, black guy. Venture capital and minorities, small space. He has, I think, 50,000 followers, maybe 100,000, but he's getting 1,000,000 views on his IG videos. And all he's doing is doing reaction content on SpaceX said they're going to do X, Y, and Z. Here are my thoughts. That's it. Picture in picture, millions of views. And it caught my attention because he said, look, I don't have a huge following, but look at all these views based on my content that's really good. And it's financial services and it's talking venture capital. And he's a minority. I said, he's cracked the code.
yeah, totally.
So there are people that are able to garner that attention, giving just raw reactionary feedback to what's happening in the real world.
Yeah, I think about that, and it is so anathema to what everybody relates things to their own situation, Tyrus. So I'm saying, like, that's the last thing I want to do. I want to sit and read a book. I don't want to, this is what I think of it, right? Not something that, although I've been pitched many, many times, like, holy shit, you know what the 1% of the 1% are doing on a daily basis because you're interacting with those people. People want to know about that. I say, okay, what do you want me to do? I mean, I'm not, do whatever, right? Videos or
Hmm.
I don't even have an Instagram account, right? We use LinkedIn and that's it, right? And we do some X, but that's just us, right? But the last thing I want to do is feel compelled that I've got to tell on a daily basis people what I'm thinking. Like, yeah, no, thank you. I can
Yeah,
see
I
why that
agree
would
with
be
you.
interesting to some people, but yeah.
And I think that the money is still shifting outside of social media. I think that there is like a lot of successful people I know don't have strong social media presence. They're not there. But when they do go on there, everybody follows and they get a lot of attention. And so I think it's just leveraging when you want to be there, make a lot of impact because yes, you could probably do a video and say, I said just what you said earlier. I do the deal review, deal flow for X amount of family offices. You put that out there one or two times, you'll have so many comments you can't even follow them. You don't even need everyday posting, but you have what people want, and that's access.
So, all right. Can I also ask you a question related to my business?
Absolutely.
So we've toyed with this in the context of doing these podcasts, and we've done the things that you would think would be important to do. Post it, and it's all LinkedIn, just to be clear,
Hmm.
right? Post it on LinkedIn that there's a new podcast. Chop that up into 19 different little clips, send it out, and it's gotten a modest amount, like exponentially more than would otherwise happen, but a modest amount of impressions. So I'm just talking impressions right now. And then we had AI create, nicely done little thumbnails with taking, for example, part of the podcast that the guest had shared some wisdom as it
Hmm.
relates to family offices. And everybody wants to know about family offices, right?
Hmm.
And made it look like a newspaper on a coffee table with a cup of coffee on it. We got, and we spent like $50 in ad spend for LinkedIn. That's it. 73,000 impressions, which may not mean anything in your world or to us necessarily, but it was an experiment.
Yeah.
And it also caused a windfall of people trying to connect with me.
Hmm.
Right. So, I mean, I imagine if we turn the gas up on that, then it creates a different problem, Tyrus, right? What do we do with all those people?
Exactly. And at that point, you would have way more deal flow than capacity. And then you will look for, okay, and in my mind, when I think about, okay, I'm coming up on capacity, what partnerships can I create and leverage for other people who need deal flow? And how do we make money off of that transition? Or I just want to help a friend out. I just want to help
Oh, we
someone
do
out.
some, yeah, we do that. Did we do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that we ran into is that the preponderance of the people, and this is symptomatic of LinkedIn, and it's, we love LinkedIn because it's made us money. And so we put up with the slop. But of those impressions and of those people asking, 90% of them were all people trying to sell us something. They
Right.
weren't candidates for where we could make money.
Yeah,
But
and I get that a lot. I get that a lot. I usually flip it. When someone reaches out to me and they wanna sell me something, I usually sometimes I'll play along with the sale, and if it's something very valid, I might move forward, but for most people, I'm coaching them, putting them into a different mindset. I'm like, "Okay, you reached out to me, here are all the things you shoulda did different."
right, I like that. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so some of these people have became clients. Some have introduced me to other people who have became clients. And I think what's going to help, especially what we started doing, was leveraging AI to take them through quizzes. When you come in and you want to book a call or something with me, you go through a quiz. And that quiz, are you a founder? Are you an investor? Are you a potential partner? And then ask various questions. That way, by the time it gets to a call, sometimes you get routed to a landing page. Here's more information because you're not qualified. So we do quizzes for qualification to cut a lot of the noise out. Do
Yeah.
people get through? Do they lie? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, and it's okay, right?
Yep.
Like, we're extra upfront when we reply to some of these people. We have a standard reply. And thank you for letting me share this, by the way, that basically says, here's what we do. If that's something you're interested in, and here's what it costs. Like, we put the price out there. And
Mhm.
so we don't want tire kickers. And
Yep.
it's okay if we lose a few people that might otherwise engage because the price scared them, right? But that's okay because it would never amount to anything anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's always gonna be the nature of the business, and we just used to it. I think that with more and more people getting interested in things, you have more and more noise and more tire kickers because they're interested, they're not committed. And so I just like to ask, "Hey, are you committed?" Or I'm not buying anything right now. Or I will just ask, did you do research on me and my background? Because what you're trying to sell me, I already do.
Yeah.
So
Right.
like,
There's a
what is
lot
the
of that. Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah.
So you're using software to just send a bunch of messages out and see who sticks. Does that work? Sure.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
That's not the type of relationship building characteristics that you want, especially if you want to grow a business.
Yeah, and by the way, we see a lot of complainers on LinkedIn, and we're not them. Like, we totally get it, right? If you're gonna have attention, you're gonna get some attention you don't want. It's o
100%.
yeah, it's totally okay. So, what would be helpful to you at this point? For example, if the audience was interested in reaching out, and what are things that are high on your list that would be helpful to you?
Yeah, we're always looking to build relationships with investors for not only future funds for us, but also for our clients because we're building our clients to become investable. So we're always looking for investors who are looking for great investments. We're looking for founders who want to grow a scale, who want to go to whatever their next level of life is, has to meet our minimum requirement of wanting to be a $50 million plus business. I don't want to work with the person who just wants an extra vacation a year. That's not a good fit. But
Isn't
for
it
those,
isn't it true, Tyrus? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think this is, I learned this a long time ago and wasn't my idea. It takes the same amount of effort to do something big as it takes to do it small.
yes, same
Same
effort.
amount of effort. Now, you have to have an ecosystem that'll allow you to do something big, right? But all those things can be fixed, right?
Yeah. And there's just a lot, and this is a whole nother podcast we could do around the money mindset. And a lot of it's dealing with lack. So you never had anyone tell you that this is possible. So you've put on self limitations. We've had misquoting of different various texts where people think having a lot of money is evil, and that's not true. And then it comes down to a fear factor. And what if I get all of this money? What's going to happen? And how does it change my life because of all the negative things that we've heard before? And
Nonsense. Yeah.
and money is the only thing, and I tell this to a lot of founders because that conversation is tough. Money is the only thing that we limit. If I ask you, how healthy do you want your kids to be? You say, as healthy as I want them to be. Or how happy do you want to be? As happy as I can be. How educated, as smart as you can. But when we talk about, well, how much money do you want? Just enough to get by. What?
Yeah, you kidding me?
Just enough?
Iris, that's super smart. Nice. That's real wisdom. Why would you limit yourself? Look,
Yeah,
the people or the text that suggested that the money is root of all evil was wrong. It's the lack of money that's the root of all evil. Money's just a tool. That's all it is.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Well, what else would be helpful to you? So investors, people want to engage in your program so you can have people that want to grow businesses. Anything else?
And just networking. I love to talk to people. I love to hear stories. I love to add value. So just be a part of an ecosystem of people that are looking to build. Peer group, always helpful.
Yeah. Super cool. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. It's been a fun conversation and very informative. So, Tyrus, thanks for doing the good work.
Thank you for having me and trusting me with your audience.
You're very welcome. So, I'm going to hit stop and hang in there 1 second.